Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to episode 100 of Talking Asperger's with Andrew. Episode 100, important. We're going to come back to that in a moment, but first let me tell you about who I am and why I do these webinars. My name is Andrew Marsh, and I'm autistic. My representation of autism is Asperger's syndrome, or as they prefer to, well, the medical profession calls it type 1 autism spectrum disorder. And there's a type 2 and a type 3, which have greater needs and challenges amongst people who have those conditions. I don't like that definition of type 1 autism spectrum disorder. I'm going to use the old-fashioned description, which is Asperger's syndrome. So that's what I will use when I describe my condition. And if I'm talking about autism more generally, I'll use the word autism. So these webinars are important to me because what I try to do in these webinars is to give an insight into a particular aspect of Asperger's syndrome or autism that can help employers understand the condition better, how to integrate and assimilate, and not assimilate, that's the wrong word, how to integrate and develop their talent, their autistic talent, and people who have Asperger's in their businesses so that they can be better, so that the business can be better, so that the staff members feel valued and they've got the support in place to be able to work collectively and constructively in their teams, and everyone benefits. Because some people with Asperger's syndrome are incredibly skilled in a number of variety of fields. And if you can tap into that, support that in the right way, you may have someone who can do really, really exceptional work and take your business forward. And that person will then feel valued because they're being supported. They've got a job. They're feeling as though they're contributing. I also help individuals on the spectrum, try and help them understand the minefield that is the application process to actually getting a job, how to help fill out a CV, what to put on their CV, how to come across an interview, and questions to ask, and how to deal with that interview process, which is quite stressful. So those are the sorts of things I do. I primarily help businesses understand Asperger's syndrome so that they can do better at it and engage people who have it and support them to do well. So that's what I do. I just said at the beginning there, episode 100. Isn't that amazing? It's been a 2-year journey to get to episode 100. And I thought I'd have a bit of a recap today on what Asperger's syndrome is. If you're new to watching this, or you're watching this on my YouTube channel and you're thinking, what's this Asperger's syndrome then? Well, I'm going to give you a bit of background about that and some of the key points and key things about people who have Asperger's and what they can bring to your business. So if you, like me, when you realize something to do with Asperger's syndrome or autism, you think, what is that? But one of the first things you do is you go to the mighty search engine and you go, what is Asperger's syndrome? And you'll get all sorts of definitions, but they will be something like this. And now I'm going to read this card to you because this is a clinical 30-word definition that I got from the internet as to what Asperger's syndrome is. And I want you to pay particular attention to this definition because it's important. Here we go. Asperger's syndrome is an autism spectrum disorder, one of a distinct group of complex neurodevelopmental disorders characterized by social impairment, communication difficulties, and restrictive, repetitive, and stereotypical patterns of behavior. Now, if that was your first experience as an employer, as a business leader, and you've got a CV through and says, I have Asperger's syndrome, and you're going to go, ooh, don't think so. That definition? Oh, no. It uses the word disorder twice. Now, I don't like it for a number of reasons. One of them is it does just that. It uses the word disorder twice. And to me, if you said, I've got a disorder, you might be thinking, there's something wrong with them. It says nothing about the skill sets of the people who have the condition. I use the word condition rather than disorder. It says nothing about that. It just says these are the things that they can't do very well. Well, that's life. That's people. Some people are particularly good at some things, and some things that people are particularly good at other things. If you were to say to me, go get your sports kit on, you're racing Usain Bolt this afternoon, I can guarantee you what the outcome is going to be. He's going to win. He could run backwards faster than I can go forwards. And I don't even remember the last time I ran. So there's no point in saying Andrew's a great athlete, because I'm not. But so people with Asperger's syndrome won't be good at some things, but I bet you they're good at other things. And we'll cover some of those in a little later on. So you need to understand people. Anything to do with Asperger's syndrome or autism is about the person that's in front of you. In this case, me, Andrew Marsh, 59-year-old Aspie. We sometimes refer to ourselves as Aspies, as an abbreviation of Asperger's syndrome. I've got skills. I've got things that I can do quite well, things that I can do very well. I've had a career as a geologist before I knew I had Asperger's syndrome, although I always knew I was different and didn't get on particularly well in teams because I wasn't given the right support or understanding. They just thought, oh, Andrew's being awkward again. No, Andrew was crying out for the right kind of support and I wasn't getting it. See how the difference? Awkward employee. What can we do about him? Let's try and get rid of them quietly, let them leave, but kind of encourage them to leave by not supporting them, not giving them promotions and giving them all the crappy jobs and all of those things. If you rephrase that, you say you have a skilled employee who needs support in the right way and they can be brilliant, all of a sudden your mindset changes. Oh, Andrew's quite good at spreadsheets. He's good at interpreting ground conditions because being a geologist, he's good at earthworks. Loved earthworks. It was fantastic. Slope stability, I was good at that. All of a sudden, I've got some skill sets that are valuable to an employer. Now, if I was to look for a job in the current economic climate, I might struggle for several reasons. One, has to be said, age discrimination. I'm 59. Why would they employ a 59-year-old guy with Asperger's syndrome and some other health issues? I'll be honest, I've got other health conditions. When they have a school leaver or someone fresh out of university who's probably going to want to be paid less than Andrew, so they'll go down that route. So I've got a age discrimination issue immediately. But if they look past that, then what can you do? I'm fantastic at organizing things. Give me a box full of information and say, Andrew, find out what's in that box and what it all means. Because that happened to me once. It was great. I came into work one day and there's a big box, an archive box, brimming with reports on my desk. There's a little note on it. See me when I come in, from my director. So he came in later than me, so I just left it on the side of my desk and carried on with what I was doing. So when he'd come in and I know he's got his cup of coffee, I said, yeah, I've got that box on my desk. Yeah, got a new job in, got all this stuff. We don't know what it all is. Can you go through it and find out what it all is? What's the important stuff? What's the background stuff? Work it all out for us. Perfect. Absolutely brilliant. It was absolutely right up my street. And I spent the day going through this thing. Now, I'm going to tell you, this was about 1994, 1995. We didn't have computers. The only computers we had were for technical software, and there was 2 of them in the department of 25 people in a corner that you specifically went to the computer to do that piece of software, then you came back to your desk. So everything we did was longhand. We wrote our reports longhand. We did our calculations longhand, apart from very specific stuff like some technical slope stability and finite element analysis for numerate analysis of retaining walls and things like that. So all of our stuff was hand written, hand calculated, hand drawn. So I got this big box of reports. Great. I got myself a sheet of A3 paper and I put columns and rows, and I went through this stuff, and there was immediately different classifications of material. Some were legal documents, some were factual reports, some were historic information, some was interpretation. So there's 4 categories to start with. So I went through them all, put them in little piles on my desk. I know I love doing that. And I went 1, 2, 3, 4 for each one. So category A, category B, category C, category D. So there'd be an A1, there'd be a B1, B2, and C1, C2, C3. Great. Listed it all out, wrote them all out on my sheet of A3 paper. And I then went through to the secretaries and said, got this table here that I'd like, could you tidy this up and type this up for me? No problem at all, they said, we'll do a spreadsheet. And I went, what's that? It's better if I show you when I've done it. I'll print it out and you can have a look at it. Great. A few hours later, this awesome piece of paper turns up on my desk with the secretary going, "There's your spreadsheet." I had actually produced a spreadsheet when I didn't know what one was. Now, I am not claiming that I invented the spreadsheet. No, I am not saying that. But what I'm saying is the way that I presented the information was in a way that someone who was familiar with using spreadsheets would do. And that's how I started using spreadsheets, to summarize information. So that's one of the things that I'm good at. I'm good at technical stuff, settlement calculations and things like that. So I'm quite numerate. I can do stuff with numbers. I can spot patterns with numbers, and some of us on the spectrum are very good at doing patterns with numbers. Some are particularly good at code and the nuts and bolts of what goes on in the computer. They write code and they're absolutely brilliant. And I'm now going to sing the praises of a company called Auticon. Auticon are an IT service provider to external clients, and every single one of their computer specialists, I don't know whether they call them technicians or engineers, but every single one of those expert computer people who do all the software and providing all that service have autism or Asperger syndrome, because Auticon go and look for them. They advertise for them. We are looking for people who have autism or Asperger's to be IT specialists in our business. They look for them. They search for them. They recruit them specifically. They have certain questions and criteria they look for in the interview process. Every single one of them is a computer savvy, and every single one of them has autism or Asperger's. And they are brilliant at what they do. And what Auticon do is they support them in the right way so that they can do all that clever technical stuff about the software and the hardware and all of that for their clients. And it's brilliant. They're brilliant. They're absolutely fantastic. That is a model that we should be rolling out everywhere. And there's an article I read about this time last year from Harvard Business School. So this is top of the range, top notch, state of the art business advice. And they had analyzed and assessed people on the spectrum. And there's a wonderful piece of information that they conclude. And it says, this is properly supported and in the right environment, people with Asperger's syndrome can be up to 140% more efficient than their neurotypical colleagues. Now, I'm betting that you have just focused on that number, 140% more efficient than their neurotypical colleagues. And yes, that's important. But the real kicker is the bit at the beginning. And I'm going to repeat it to you. Properly supported and in the right environment, so on. Now, you're a business. You employ people to do a service, whatever that is, whether it's your technical staff, your admin staff, your accountants, your HR people. Everyone has a role to do, to fit together, to oil the machinery that makes your business function and pays people and gets invoices from clients or sells things to customers over the internet or in shops or premises or whatever that arrangement is, whatever that is for how your business works. The key to that is supporting everyone in what they do. Properly supported and in the right environment. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a minute. Why wouldn't you properly support all of your employees in the right environment? Because when you do, they'll be at their productive, effective, efficient best. You should be doing that for everyone as a matter of course, not just to support your autistic employees or those who've got Asperger's syndrome so that they can shine. You should be doing it for every single person in your business. Put them in the right environment and adequately support them. You do that and everyone will shine. But the Harvard Business School, Harvard Business Review did this report, and they said that properly supported and in the right environment, people with Asperger's syndrome are up to 140% more efficient than their neurotypical colleagues. That is important. That is fundamental to how we engage, employ, and support autistic people and people who have Asperger's syndrome, because they can be fantastic. One of the things is we have quite good focus. And what that means is I'm going to do this deliberately. We're not doing this, looking down at our phones all day, that other people in the business are doing. And when they all come to work in the morning, they're not chitty-chattering and hovering around the coffee machine or the water cooler going, did you see that program on the telly last night with so-and-so and what's its name and thingamajig and doodah? Or did you see that the football? That was definitely offside, or that was a foul. Or they're not going to be interested in doing that. Your autistic employees and those with Asperger's come in, they'll get their cup of tea or coffee, and they will be working at their desk. Boom. Because that's what you pay them for. That's what they want to do. They will be wanting to get on with it, and they will not care a monkeys about what was on the telly last night, about what was on Strictly, or what was on Desperate Housewives, or the Real Housewives of wherever they are this week. They won't care a damn about that. Not interested. Absolutely not interested. They will be coming to work, they'll get their cup of coffee or cup of tea, and boom, they will start, and they will work, and they will be efficient, and they'll be productive, provided they've got the right support and communication strategies with their supervisors and with their teams. They will fly. Trust me on this. They will fly. And if you are someone who does metrics for your business, and your business leads itself to metrics and numbers, you watch their KPIs. You watch their productivity compared to their neurotypical colleagues. I bet you find their numbers are fantastic. And they will just keep on working, keep on doing it. Not interested in the chitter-chatter that's going around the office. Office politics? No thanks. Give me a job to do. Tell me what you want. Tell me how you're going to support me. Tell me how we're going to do this. Tell me when you want it done by. Tell me what support, other people, other team members, or other software that I need to use. Make sure I'm familiar with that. That's the go button. I'll get on and do it. If I've got questions, I'll come and see you. Is that okay? Have your check-in points sorted out? Excuse me one moment. And it's like the mechanical toy car. Wind it up, put it down, boom, off it goes. The winding up part is you setting out what you want to do. Make sure your autistic person or your person with Asperger's syndrome understands what they want to do. Agree your checking points. Agree how he can communicate with you. He or she can communicate with you if they've got a problem, whether it's you they need to come and ask, or whether it's another team member or someone from another department. That's supporting them in the right environment. Let them go. Off they go. And I bet you they'll be fantastic at what they do. So we have focus. We have great ideas. We have fantastic ideas because we ask the what if questions. Now, as I said earlier, I used to be a geologist in the construction industry, and one of my absolute most exciting things that I would do is when sitting in a meeting with a client, with the contractor, with other design team members, project managers, be sitting in there on site building this design that we had designed, and the contractor's building it. And I'm sitting there thinking, hang on, why is no one asking this question? And everyone, be it the client, be it the contractor, be it the designer, be it whomever it is not asking this question. I'm sitting there thinking, if we ask this question, and I've got some ideas about the answer, but I may not have all the answers, obviously, we'll find out what the issue is and how to resolve it and how to solve it, and everyone agree with it, and boom, off we go. Me being me, I would say, I've got a question. And I would ask the question. And I would get stunned looks from all the people around the room. Then when they thought about it, they go, well, we start answering the question, we start discussing the topic. And all of a sudden, we've got consensus, we've got a problem solved. Everyone knows what they're doing, boom, off we go. A number of times, my project manager has said to me after the meeting, or my client has said to me after the meeting, when we're out having a wander around the site or we're getting a cup of tea and everyone else has gone, Andrew, how, how, how did you think of that question? And if it was my project manager, I would say to him, oh, actually, the question we should be asking is, why didn't you think of it? And they go, what? Eh? So we have to have this discussion about, I ask the what if questions. Sometimes I might know the answer. Sometimes I might have a suggestion. Sometimes I just don't know. And wanting to know is going to help me understand the problem. And someone else around the room might have the answer. I would ask those questions. It's a great way. It's a great leveler. Asking those questions and getting input from around the room to find a solution. So we're great at asking those questions and thinking of new ideas. Some of the people throughout history who are believed to have Asperger's syndrome, and we don't know. We don't know. We weren't there at the time. The condition only came to light during the Second World War and only became significantly understood in the 1980s and 1990s. So we can't put a hand on our heart and say, yes, this person has it, but we're reasonably confident that this might be the case. Leonardo da Vinci, Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein, Alan Turing, all people who we believed may have had Asperger's syndrome. Highly gifted, highly unconventional, excellent problem solvers. Leonardo da Vinci he was an engineer, he was an architect, he almost discovered the circulation of the blood flow around the heart and around the body 200 years before Harvey did. He designed things. He came up with rudimentary designs for a helicopter, for a tank, for weapons of war and siege engines that were just phenomenal. If you get the chance to read a biography of Leonardo da Vinci, I would encourage you to do so, because the man was a genius, an absolute genius. He was believed to have Asperger's syndrome. Now, not everyone who's autistic or has Asperger's is a genius. Absolutely. I'm not saying that. Not saying that. But we have skills and we have things that are fantastic for employers. Going back to the Harvard Review, properly supported in the right environment, boom, off they go. It's really important that you do that for all your employees. And we have something in the UK called the Equality Act of 2010, where it sets out the employer's obligations to make what are called reasonable adjustments to accommodate people with disabilities and conditions, such that if those reasonable adjustments make it a level playing field for that person to be able to come to work and be supported at work, then that's what the employer has to do. There's a limit to what are reasonable. If you had a small business of 5 people, one of them needed, you didn't have lifts in the building, it might not be reasonable to expect the employer to spend 50 grand or 100 grand putting a lift in those circumstances. But if you've got an employer that's got 2,000 people in a big building and it's not got a lift, then it might be deemed to be reasonable to put the lift in, because it not only helps that one person who uses the wheelchair for their accessibility and mobility, but it helps everyone else going up and down the floors. So it comes down to scale and what is reasonable and things of that nature. And one of those things is very simply understanding what someone needs. I use an example of, let's suppose you're an engineering manufacturer, and one of your key machines keeps breaking down every 9 days or every 100,000 processes, as regular as clockwork. Almost on the 100,000th one, click, something happens and it breaks. No one has been able to fix it. Everyone's scratching their head. You've had engineers in, you've had external consultants in, you've had all sorts of people in. No one can fix this problem. All you have is, it's going to break at 2 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. Have the person on standby to come in, fix it, deal with it so that the machine is up and running as soon as possible. That's all you can do. That's all you've been able to do. Let's just suppose that you've had a CV in from someone from Hungary or Chinese Singapore or Bolivia. Their CV shines. They've got all the skills, all the abilities, absolutely fantastic. You have them into interview and you notice one thing: their English isn't fantastic. It's not bad. You can understand them, but written communication could be difficult if it's not checked. What would you do? That person, and that person is sitting in the interview, and you explain to him, yeah, we've got this problem. Every 100,000 times we use this machine, boom, click, it breaks. Oh, yeah, is it one of these machines that does that? Yeah. Yeah, we had that problem in our plant 3 years ago, and we fixed it like this. That is someone you want to employ. But their English isn't fantastic. So what do? You make them an offer, a very good offer, and you say, as part of our offer to you, we are going to help you with your English. We're going to put you on a night school course for 6 months to improve your English verbally and written communication. And we will have someone so that when you do written communication that goes from you to someone else, whether that's inside the company or whether that's outside the company to a client or a supplier or whatever, another stakeholder, we will have someone review all your written communications for syntax, grammar, and typo errors and things like that, so that what goes out is professional from us as a business. You would do that, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? Of course you would. Let's take another example. You have a very valued member of staff. They are brilliant at what they do. Fantastic. Unfortunately, life gets in the way one Tuesday afternoon on the way home from work, and they have an accident in their car. Break their hip, break their leg. They're in hospital for some time. They're off work. They have operation. And that all happens. And they're into a convalescence period where they can get about a bit. They might have a Zimmer frame, or they might have crutches, or they might have a stick, but they can get about with, people accepting that it might take them longer to do things. Now they can say, well, my doctor said I can come back to work. I'll be about 80% efficient because I'm not very mobile, but I can come back to work. But I need support for my back and my hip with a orthopedic chair. And I've looked online, and my doctor has given me a list of ones which are suitable, and they're £300 or £400. Now, if you can provide me with the chair, I can come back to work, be maybe 80% efficient. Might need some support getting to and from the printer. It may not be that efficient for me to keep getting up every time I need to go to the printer or photocopier. But if you could have someone on hand to do that, that would be great. But the chair is going to cost £300 or £400. But I can come back to work. If the employer says, yes, fantastic, you've put a support mechanism in place to support that person at work so that they have the minimal amount of having to go to and from the printer and all of those little communication things that we do. And they're great. They're 80% efficient, get up to 90%, and then boom, it's great. Everyone wins. What if the employer turns around and says, oh, no, we can't, not going to spend £400 on the chair, because if we spend £400 on the chair for you, if someone else has a problem, we might have to spend £400 on a chair for someone else. And then there might be someone else, and someone else might want something else. So they say no. Okay. The employee goes back to their doctor. Doctor says, okay, no problem. Here's a line for 3 months, or here's another line for 6 months, signing you off work. You send it into your employer. Oh, you're going to be off for another 3 months or another 6 months. What are we going to do? They may have to pay someone to get someone in on contract at a higher rate to come and do your job for you for 3 months or 6 months. And then when you do eventually come back, that person goes and takes all their experience with them. What also happens is your employee has been off work for some time now. They've got 3 months or 6 months more of this. They're going to start to question, will I be able to go back to work? What if I can't cope if I go back to work? We haven't got enough money, and our savings are going to be used up. That employee is going to start to go through a cycle of anxiety and depression, and it's going to play on their mind. the mental anguish that that person is going through for those 3 months, for that 6 months, might mean that in that 6 months' time, they might be okay to go back to work because of their hip, but they're depressed as goodness knows what, and they can't go back to work because they can't cope with being around work because they're depressed and they're anxious and they're anxiety, which puts more pressure on them because they can't cope and they've got no savings and they haven't got the money and they've got a mortgage to pay or the rent to pay, and you get into a downward spiral of negative thinking, all because the employer wasn't prepared to get the chair for £300 or £400. Sometimes reasonable adjustments aren't expensive. It might just be having someone to support them, having someone to go to and from the printer. It might just be having someone coming and checking in on them once or twice a day. Is everything okay? Is there anything you need? These things can be very straightforward. It is very unlikely in most cases that reasonable adjustments are expensive. Some of them might be what I've got on here. Well, this is just a normal headset, but someone with Asperger's syndrome, we can be sensitive to noise or bright lights, and they might say, it's a bit noisy around the office, but I can get some noise cancelling headphones, and if it's okay with you, I can sit and wear those headphones at work. It takes away the noise of the clutter and the chitter chatter of what's going on around the office, and that way I can be more effective. You would allow that, wouldn't you? They might even provide their own noise cancelling headphones. They might ask you to contribute towards them. You would allow that, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? Or you might have someone who's sensitive to light and light flicker when you've got your big fluorescent lights on. It might be that there's a corner over there where you can take the fluorescent lights out and give them an angle point light just behind the computer, so that the light, they can control the direction and the intensity of the light, and that's all that is needed. That's not going to cost a lot of money. That's a reasonable adjustment. Or if they're sitting next to the window and there's nowhere else for them to be, give them control of the blind or the curtain so that they can control it. If it's get too bright, close the curtain, close the blind. That's a reasonable adjustment. Not very expensive, not difficult to implement. So reasonable adjustments don't always cost the earth. In fact, they very, very infrequently do they become an expensive consideration. And you get great people and you're supporting them and they're fantastic at work. So we have all these skills. And it's important to say that this is really important. When you've met one person with autism or with Asperger's syndrome, that's what you've done. You've met one person with autism or Asperger's syndrome. Not everyone is the same. My representation of Asperger's syndrome could be and will be completely different to the next person that you meet who has Asperger's syndrome. Completely different. Their needs, their wants, their reasonable adjustments, their support mechanisms might be completely different and probably will be completely different from me, for them. So it's about having the dialogue with HR to say, how can we support this person? And it's not difficult to implement. And they have amazing skills. I love spreadsheets, as I said earlier. You may have someone in your team who's got Asperger's who are an absolute whiz at spreadsheets. They know how to do macros. No, I don't know how to do macros. I just know of macros because someone once showed me one and I went, yeah, that's a bit beyond me. But macros are little mini programs that you can compute into spreadsheets to do clever things with it. You might have someone on your team who's fantastic at doing that, brilliant at doing that sort of thing, organizing data, things of that nature, amazing abilities. Support them in how they do it. So autistic people and people with Asperger's syndrome can bring so much to your business. I'm going to share with you a phrase that I have used quite a few times on my webinars, and I think it's important that we understand where it comes from and what it means. If you always employ the same type of person doing the same type of job, guess what? You're going to get the same type of result. To get new ideas, new thoughts, things that challenge what you do, new ideas, innovation, new products, new services. You need people who think differently. Need people who think out of the box, who think are not constrained by the norms of our social conventions and think differently. What if we did this? What if we looked at it from this angle? What if we combine those two processes into one, and that process is more efficient than those two? You're saving money, because if you've had two processes that are using energy, electricity to drive them, or other aspects of fuel consumption to drive them, you make those two processes one process. You've got one machine instead of two machines. Takes your direct costs down. They may be able to come up with something new, something different. Steve Jobs was believed to have Asperger's syndrome. Loved to have been a fly on the wall when they came up with the iPhone. Yeah, what a great thing. What a great idea that was. Putting the power of a handheld device and a computer into one thing that wasn't just a phone, that you could also send a text message, and if you were really lucky, you could send one photograph. Now we have the power of the computer in our hands, and we can speak to someone on the other side of the world in real time in the device in our hands. And we can look up any piece of information we want to just by typing in a few characters in the search engine on your handheld device. Amazing. These are the things that autistic people and people with Asperger's syndrome can bring to your business. That's a bit of a recap. At the beginning, I gave you a 30-word clinical definition of what Asperger's syndrome is. I have my own 30-word definition, and if you can remember, the clinical definition used the word disorder twice and said nothing about the positive side of the person, the human being who has the condition. It talked about stereotypical patterns of behavior, things like that. I'm going to read you my 30-word definition of Asperger's syndrome. Asperger's syndrome is an autism spectrum condition characterized by unique problem-solving skills, a highly developed imagination, and a flair for innovation in design, engineering, science, computing, and the arts. Now, I don't know about you, but I know which one of those I prefer. I know which one says more about the person, says more about their abilities and skills and what they can bring to your business, bring to society as a whole. Those are the sorts of people that you want in your business, properly supported in the right environment. They could be your superstars to drive your business forward, so that in 3 years' time, 5 years' time, your business is the market leader. You are the trend, because you've got people who know how to ask the what if questions, who can think of new ways of doing things, who can produce new products and services. Your company could be that next big thing, could be the trend, if you properly support, in the right environment, Asperger's employees in your business. Surely that is what we should thrive for. Going back to Auticon, that's what they do. And they are brilliant at what they do. Absolutely brilliant at what they do, because they have the right people with the right skills, and they support them in the right way, in the right environment, so that they can do brilliant work for their clients. That's the model we should be using. That's what we should be striving for. And those that embrace neurodiversity and the DEI movement, diversity, equity, and inclusivity movement, they're going to be the leaders in the next 3, 5, 10 years. And the ones that don't, the ones that shy away from it, go, "Ooh, we don't know what to do with all these autistic people and people with Asperger's syndrome, so we won't do anything." They'll be the ones who are left by the wayside. They'll be the ones whose turnover goes down, whose profits go down, as those who embrace people who are different and embrace the skills and the abilities that they bring, their lines go up and up and up. Harvard Business School said so. And who are we to argue with Harvard Business School? My name's Andrew Marsh, and that is today's webinar, which is episode 100 of Talking Asperger's with Andrew. If you're an employer and you're watching this on replay, please feel free to get in touch. I have a free 30-minute consultation of no obligation that I would love to have with you on how I can help you in your business, support and nurture and utilize in the best way your Asperger's employees and your autistic employees. Love to be able to do that to help you out. If you're not sure what to do, you're not sure what reasonable adjustments are, please get in touch, because the skill set is there. There are people out there who have the skill set that you are looking for. Properly supported in the right environment, they will fly. Little bit of news just to finish us off today. This is episode 100. We've had 100 weekly episodes for the last near enough 2 years. I'm going to go to a monthly episode from next month. So next, we're going to be the first Wednesday of each month. So the next episode is going to be Wednesday, December the 6th. And we're going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing this on a monthly basis. I have a YouTube channel with all of the videos to all of my webinars on. So there's 100 episodes. There will be 100 episodes on there later on this week once I've uploaded this one. There's bound to be something there that's of interest to you that can help you in your business. So we're going to go to a monthly one because we've covered a lot of topics in 100 weeks. So that's for the plan. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to get in touch. Drop me an email. You can get my email on my website, andrew@aspergersmatters.com, or there's a contact form on the website. So this video will be uploaded on Thursday, and next month's episode will be advertised a couple of weeks beforehand. So we're going to give it a couple of weeks notice so that people know when I'm doing these next month. So that's all we have time for this time. Thank you for your time. And remember, there are people out there who've got the skill set that you need to drive your business forward, and they are autistic. They have Asperger's syndrome. They could just be the thing that drives your business forward so that you are the trend. You are the market leader. Take care. See you next time.